Well, welcome back, everybody. Do we have to take roll? I guess we'll take roll call again. All right. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Agent,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Haney Keith,
Here.
Ash,
Here.
Willits,
Here.
Whittings,
Here.
all present.
Then we've got a consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted in one motion. There's no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor, a couple of things. I think that we first have some
Sure.
minutes that we need to approve.
Am I? Oh, so I didn't have anything listed under this. Sorry about that.
You might switch to your new one. My old one was also updated.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
All right, we'll start with the minutes from the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the city council minutes from the special meeting, June 12th, 2023, special day meeting, June 13th, 2023, special meeting, June 14th, 2023, and special meeting, June 15th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willits,
Yes.
Whittings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Haney Keith,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, now the consent agenda. I'm not going to read that again.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willits. Yes. Whittings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Haney Keith,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
And now we will move into ordinances. We are going, so there will be one that first reading comes later, so we'll move into second reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on the second reading calendar be read by number and title only and filed for the third reading.
Without objection.
Oh, Madam Mayor, one other thing to note. The numerals on ORD 22-23 were incorrect. So I just wanted to note that for the record.
Oh, because it says 27, 23. All right, yeah, we'll correct that down here when we pick it up. Great. You can go ahead and read the second reading ordinances.
ORD 22-23, an ordinance CAR 22-00046 for property located at 3121 East Starview Drive, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property, particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance and adjacent rights of way from A-1 open lands to R-1Z single family residential 8 units per acre, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such zone change and providing an effective date.
Thank you. And now third reading.
Madam Mayor, similarly to the prior ordinance, ORD 19-23 was incorrectly, the numerals were incorrect, but it doesn't impact the body of the ordinance.
Okay.
So I move that further reading of ORD 19-23 be dispensed with and the record reflect that it's been read a third time in full.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willits,
Yes.
Whittings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Haney Keith,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries. ORD 19-23, an ordinance repealing and replacing Boise City Code Title I, Chapter 12, Article F, entitled Percent for Public Art, changing the name to Percent for Art. New section 1 providing an expanded contribution of eligible capital improvement projects from 1% to 1 2/10%, while eliminating the 4/10% set aside for maintenance and expanding the scope beyond public art to cultural assets. New section 2 adding new definitions. New section 3 defining eligible capital improvement projects and exclusions. New section 4 defining the role of the Arts and History Department in facilitating the Percent for Art program. New section 5 outlining permissible uses of Percent for Art funds to include acquisition and exhibition of cultural assets, as well as costs associated with management, planning, and education. New section 6 explaining the calculation of the 1 2/10% of eligible project costs and providing for rollover of unspent funds. New section 7, providing for maintenance costs in the city's normal annual or interim budget process and identifying maintenance as a responsibility of the Departments of Arts and History. Approving a summary of the ordinance and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that ORD 19-23 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Clerk?
Nash.
Yeah.
Willetts.
Yes.
Whittings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Haney Keith.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, now we will move into new business. First off, we have a purchasing brief. We've got Missy Girlhouse and Jennifer Stevens or team from Arts and History, but I think we'll be hearing from Missy.
Hello, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Missy Grothaus. I am the purchasing agent for the city. I'm here today to request an award decision for RFQ 2023-026 521 West Grove Street Public Art Project for the Department of Arts and History. We received local applications in this call. However, none of those applications were ranked as the highest. I'm here to stand for any questions you may have regarding the process, and we have Stephanie Johnson from the Department of Arts and History to address any project-specific questions. And if there are not any questions, then I respectfully ask for an award decision.
Any questions? All right. To have a purchasing brief decided upon by council takes a motion, a second, and a vote. Correct. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve RFQ 2023-26 521 West Grove Street Public Art Project Award Decision, SLEP.
Second. And I guess, Madam Mayor, is that specific enough for the award that we're offering, or do we actually need to?
I think we should name the applicant Cliff Garden Studio as the highest ranked in the motion.
Would you amend it as such?
Yes. I amend it as to reflect Cliff Garden Studio as the winner of the RFQ.
And I'll do the second again.
Right. Any discussion?
Oh, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it was really fun to be part of this process of selection. We had so many folks who responded to this RFQ who were just amazing artists and had incredible bodies of work all around the world, and many around the West regionally. We had a very robust discussion and a lot of passion from many of the other panelists on the award of this particular RFQ to Cliff Garden Studio. And I think it'll be really fun to have a new artist come and enter our community and take on this really unique project in a very unique spot in our city with a very cool cultural context. So I look forward to seeing what Cliff does here in Boise and look forward to meeting him when he comes and visits. Thank you. And kudos to the Arts and History staff. You guys just really ran a great process and it made it really easy to be a panelist and really clear rubric and really clear expectations. So I very much appreciated that.
Well, I'd just say that this is a wonderful example of partnership with CCDC and the city and Arts and History. Both the council, myself, and CCDC Commission really, as well as the original owner of this lot on Grove Street, envisioned this new public space to be transformational for the area, but truly a gathering space for people from all over the city. And art as a way to create place and connection is a key part of that. And so this is a great step in the process of getting really a transformational piece of art here in this space at 6th and Grove to help it become yet another magnet in the city where folks want to gather and hang out. So thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just to expand on that a little bit, one of the things that we loved about this artist's body of work was the way that he incorporates landscape into the overall art. So really transforming the space as a whole instead of just kind of having a piece of art, really incorporating all of those things together. And so I think it'll be really special and a really fantastic gathering place.
Right, any further comments? Clerk, will you call the roll?
Nash,
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
Whittings.
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Holly Burton.
Yes.
Annie Keith.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a public hearing to transfer ownership of property adjacent to State and Arthur Streets. Rob is going to present, and then Rob, will you, this is the ordinance that then goes to first reading after the presentation? Yes. Okay, great, thanks.
Declared this particular piece of property surplus. It's approximately 1,400 square feet. It's requested to be transferred to ACHD as public right of way. It is that hashtag area you can see in the lower left-hand corner of this diagram. Sorry, the diagram's a little smushed. It's not currently used for a public purpose, vacant. It's adjacent to the parcel at State and Arthur that we are developing for affordable housing, and the right of way will be constructed in conjunction with the development. The reason for why we're having this public hearing today and 3 readings is to expedite review by ACHD and not impede or create any sort of delay for our development. If approved, we're requesting that ordinance transferring the property be approved today to expedite development of the property. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Rob? All right, I will open the public hearing. Is anybody here to testify on this? I'll ask that the record reflect that nobody is here or online to testify on this item. And with that, I'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, actually, maybe I do have a question for Rob real quick. Rob, are we sending this to first, second, and third to do an expedited reading?
Mayor McLean, Council President Whittings, yes.
Okay, great. Well, Madam Mayor, I move that all rules of council interfering with the immediate consideration of ORD 26-23 be suspended, that the portions of Idaho Code 50-902 requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days, twice by title and once in full, be dispensed with, that the record show it has been read the 3rd time in full.
Second, are we moving it to the reading calendar and then we can do just straight from here?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Nash,
Yes.
Willetts.
Yes.
Whittings.
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Holly Burton.
Yes.
Annie Keith.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. ORD 26-23, an ordinance conveying city-owned real property consisting of 1,428 square feet located adjacent to State Street and adjacent to Arthur Street in Boise City, Ada County, Idaho, is underutilized or not being used for public purposes. Approving the conveyance of the subject real property to the Ada County Highway District for use as public right-of-way. Approving as to both form and content a warranty deed to effect the conveyance. Authorizing the mayor and city clerk respectively to execute and attest the warranty deed for and on behalf of the city of Boise City, Idaho. Authorizing and directing Boise City staff to do all things necessary to close the transaction, waiving the reading rules and establishing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that ORD 26-23 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Whittings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Holly Burton.
Yes.
Annie Keith.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, now we're going to move into special business. We have 3 members of our Open Space and Clean Water Advisory Committee that are up for reappointment for terms, 3-year terms ending in June 2026. That's Catherine Dallas Elliott, Matt Cryer, and Michelle Myers. So I'll put these before council and just want to thank the 3 of them for their service and their willingness to continue their service.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent for the reappointment of Catherine Dallas Elliott, Matt Cryer, and Michelle Myers to the Open Space and Clean Water Advisory Committee for 3-year terms ending June 2026.
Without objection. All right. Are any of them online? All right. Well, just again, I'd like to thank all three of our commissioners for continuing into another term. And next up, we've got Nicole Carn with Energize Our Neighborhoods. So this presentation from Nicole is in response to the questions that council had during the modern zoning code hearings about the services that our city provides and support that our city provides neighborhood associations. At some point in the future, we'll have a longer energized conversation, but I've asked Nicole here today to talk about what we provide neighborhood associations so that as council's thinking about in response to many of the questions that council had during the modern zoning code hearings, I'm thinking about this, what you would like to see neighborhoods associations be able to provide their residents and the city to provide them. You can, this will serve as a foundation for feedback in the future. So we asked Nicole to be here today. And then after Nicole, Tim and team is here to go through the modern zoning code. So this is bifurcated, but this is strictly the follow-up regarding questions about what services we provide for the associations.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council. My name is Nicole Carr. I am the Energize Our Neighborhoods Program Manager. Today, I'll be sharing the tools and support that Energize offers our neighborhood associations and the specific efforts of Energize around the modern zoning code. Energize Our Neighborhoods has been operating under the mission as a community collaboration to make all Boise neighborhoods unique and desirable. It is a partnership with neighborhood associations to enrich the lives of residents, enhance the identity of the neighborhoods, and encourage a strong sense of community. Energize Our Neighborhoods has 5 key functions. Planning is a collaboration with neighborhood associations to help create a vision of Boise neighborhoods. This includes specific neighborhood plans and collaboration on development projects while aligning with existing plans and strategic initiatives. Implementation identifies opportunities to make neighborhood level change through sourcing and funding. There are 2 opportunities for funding support through Energize, ACT mini grants and the Neighborhood Investment Program, which I will talk more about in just a few minutes. Capacity building provides resources in support of neighborhood engagement, connecting associations to services and community education opportunities. This includes hosting the Boise Neighborhood Interactive Conference and the Energize Ed Workshop Series. We celebrate the development of connections between residents and their neighborhoods. This includes the use of the Block Party trailer and the annual You Stick in Bloom celebration. And we fully support the needs of the neighborhoods year-round. Since joining the city as the Energize Program Manager in early March, my focus has been connecting with neighborhood associations to introduce myself and meet with association leadership. I support the 35 established neighborhood associations in our community. Currently, we have 2 inactive neighborhood associations and 1 more that is rebuilding. Because my start date with the city coincided with the modern zoning code, it was imperative that communication with our neighborhoods be strong, thorough, and constant. To do that, we offered to have a city planner attend as many neighborhood association meetings as possible. When staff attended, they were able to address concerns and answer zoning code questions specific to the neighborhood. Our goal was to open a dialogue on the zoning code so that every neighborhood association felt that they had an understanding and a voice. In partnership with PDS, any update on the zoning code was shared with neighborhood association leadership directly via email. This included key dates for public comments, testimony, and the allotted time each neighborhood association would be given at the hearings. It also included all materials and media that was generated by PDS. In addition to regularly scheduled neighborhood meetings, there were many opportunities to authentically connect with community about the zoning code, such as the North End Transportation Summit, First Thursday events, and at a recent Boise Young Professionals event called Bike Your Neighborhood. Connecting neighborhoods to city information and resources has also included staff from Curbit, Code Enforcement, and Valley Regional Transit at recent meetings. Participating in meetings and neighborhood events helps staff engage with the community at outreach events like National Night Out or You Stick in Bloom. Energize provides every neighborhood association free resources, which include one postcard mailing each year to share information about their board elections, meetings, and community events. We also provide access to surveys for neighborhood associations to obtain community feedback. ACT mini grants, one of the funding opportunities I mentioned a moment ago, are available to all neighborhood associations 3 times each fiscal year to build capacity, spark creativity in their engagement efforts.
Wait,
This-
could you give an example of that, or were you about to?
Yes, I
Okay,
will.
great. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's see, this small amount of funding of up to $2,500 for each neighborhood association enables neighborhoods to lead planning and livability projects, offer educational programming for residents, host community events, and supports the administration of the association. Examples of this related to the modern zoning code include neighborhood communication, planning projects, and educational efforts like community conferences and safety programs. Another funding opportunity is the Neighborhood Investment Program. These large-scale capital projects help enrich the lives of residents and enhance the identity and quality of life in our neighborhoods. One recently completed investment project is the installation of bus shelters in the Central Bench neighborhood. Investment projects that are currently underway include the Jefferson Walking Path and several neighborhood sign projects. The Boise Neighborhood Interactive returns next month and will be the first in-person conference since 2019. With the theme Engaging Everyone, we are highlighting Boise voices to empower and engage residents in creating sustainable and livable neighborhoods through information, shared resources, collaboration, and training. This free conference is open to all Boiseans on Saturday, July 15th at Jump. Madam Mayor, did that answer your question about those ACT grants? Great, thank you.
Madam Mayor, just one quick question with the other grants, the Neighborhood Investment Program. Is there a range that we fund in that, or is it not a specific dollar amount?
The Neighborhood Investment Program is a capital funding $500,000.
Cool, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, Council Member Halliburton. This is my first time presenting, so I appreciate your understanding.
You're doing
You're
great.
doing a great job.
In my short time as Energized Manager, I've experienced firsthand how participation from neighborhood associations varies. They each operate at different levels, frequency, and capacity. I will ensure outreach is focused and inclusive for all associations. Some associations are well-established and have a strong understanding of how to engage with the city, whether it be around the grants offered or providing testimony at council and commission meetings. Others seem less familiar in how to engage and what resources are available or have limited involvement from residents. This is likely due to a variety of factors, such as leadership turnover, availability and capacity of leadership, and onboarding new members. Neighborhood association leadership are volunteers, people who may have young families, full-time jobs, or other commitments. We recognize their service and talent in support of their community. Knowing this, our commitment remains to provide access to tools, resources, and information for all neighborhood associations in a variety of ways. We do this by investing in programs that provide access to technology, online resources, funding, and educational materials so that all neighborhood associations have equitable opportunities to succeed. To ensure neighborhood associations stay informed on the next steps of the modern zoning code, we will continue communication between PDS and neighborhood associations through Energize, acting as a conduit, and further, we will continue to staff a city planner at association meetings when requested. We will include information related to the zoning code at the Neighborhood Interactive Conference next month. We're also looking to bring back Energize Ed sessions, which were hosted pre-pandemic, and is a series that focuses on motivating, engaging, and connecting Boise residents by giving them information to become champions for neighborhood level change. Sessions would include topics like how to participate in city government, zoning 101, transportation and regional planning, and using social media for neighborhood communication. Neighborhoods are the heart of our city, and as the program manager, I'm excited to continue the work of supporting each neighborhood association. This concludes my presentation. I will stand for questions.
Thanks, Nicole. I just want to say I appreciate you being here, and I got great feedback from the neighborhood association at You Stick and Bloom about their interactions with you, and I've heard that from others as well. So appreciate you being out there, engaging neighborhood associations and helping folks better engage with the city then to influence and impact their neighborhoods. And great job
Thank you. I
for your first
appreciate that.
presentation. Yes.
I have a question for Nicole. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to have someone in this role who clearly has passion and knowledge of Boise's neighborhoods. I think that's really important. I have a question about your outreach that you do through Energize. Like, how do you get folks to be interested in things like the Neighborhood Interactive or Energize Ed? Like, what's your kind of outreach strategy for that?
Madam Mayor and Council Member Woodings, it is a big ask. Outreach is an effort that is continued daily. A lot of it is showing up at neighborhood meetings, attending those events like You Stick and Bloom. I had to miss this year due to a pre-planned event, but connecting with our neighborhoods in those authentic ways, getting out in front of people at informal events too, like National Night Out, and attending those meetings regularly to put a face to a name. That's my goal, and really recruit efforts on that face-to-face level, in addition to all of the other communication tools that we use like social media and those outreach efforts there.
I have a maybe more specific question. So we often have people give us online feedback, for example, on the zoning code or through, feedback through Compass or, different ways that people can submit online feedback. Do we mine those for email addresses? Because those seem like people who would be interested, engaged, like maybe interested in being engaged in a different way than just reading through planning documents and then providing input. That could be an interesting way to kind of target people who have already shown interest. That looks like Lindsay might have an answer too.
Great.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'll just step in. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Woodings, just a couple things. One, if people want to subscribe to our newsletters, they do have to opt in. We did have a zoning code newsletter that people opted in specifically focused on that topic. So we do have to be careful on some of those things. But our newsletter that we send out weekly has over 16,000. And then of course we use our utility newsletter and some of those other communication channels as well. So anyways, we do collect that information, but they don't opt in to be a part of our newsletters.
Thank you for that. I guess that's fair to not spam our residents when they haven't asked us to do so. Thank you so much for being maybe nicer than I would be about that.
Madam Mayor, I just want to extend the kudos to Nicole. She has been phenomenal. She's attended several of our neighborhood association meetings in West Boise. And I have to tell you that I think we bugged her within hours of her being on the job about the banners for You Stick and Bloom. And she was Nancy Drew. She went through and figured out what had happened and she got them up before You Stick and Bloom and everyone was so pleased. So thank you. I mean, she really did hit the ground running, helping us with some issues that we were trying to get through. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that the Neighborhood Association was very pleased.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Then Mary, great to see you. Thank you for talking about some of the tools and resources that are available for folks. I'm really familiar with the postcard mailing and how people have been really able to use that effectively when they're proactive with it. I wasn't as familiar with the survey for community feedback, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that resource that we're giving to the neighborhood associations and how you've seen people using it.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, that's a great question and not something that I've completely dove into, so I can look into that and report back. However, it is a tool we use through SurveyMonkey to assist and support the neighborhoods in building surveys that will get meaningful data and as a free resource to them to collect community feedback.
That's great. Thank you. I think one of the areas that I think most of the council members would love to see is our neighborhood associations having some tools to engage with people more and then actually knowing what some of the response has been from that engagement. And the survey tool seems like a great way, to do that or to examine some greater transparency in what the outreach is and what the responses are as well, so that we can make a really informed decision. I guess one other piece of, it's not feedback, it's maybe more of an offer. When we're doing some of the neighborhood ed sessions, is that what they were called? Energize Ed?
Energize that. yes.
Yeah, and I haven't been to any of those either. I've been to a lot of the other Energize programs. There may be, it may be helpful for some of the neighborhood associations to get some feedback on what would be helpful to present at a city council meeting. I think for council members, I would certainly volunteer to help, give some of that information or do some of that training. It's really, really hard for people to come up here and testify in front of a big group of people and to do it on behalf of a neighborhood, that they're trying to represent. And I think that there may be some things that we could offer as far as here are some of the input that's really, really helpful for us in making some of these decisions. And if there's a way to volunteer, I'm sure that there's other council members up here who would love to be helpful in a discussion like that too. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again. All right. All right. Next up, Tim Keene and the Modern Zoning Code team. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to see you. Tim, I'll just have you jump right in. This is, but as a reminder, we had asked Tim and team to come back, walk through the changes that were made so that we could be sure that the amended version of the ordinance reflects the discussion and motion that we made, as well as answer any other questions before we move this into reading.
Mayor, members of council, Tim Keene, Director of Planning and Development Services. And importantly, we had to put together the ordinance that reflects the amendments that City Council made in your motion and action on June 15th, which we did. And I'll get into that in just a moment. Just a reminder about the schedule this year. We did add what's happened since June 15th to this slide, but it started with the release of the draft of the ordinance, or not the draft, but the actual version of the ordinance to the community in February. We had our Planning and Zoning Commission hearings in April, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended the ordinance and the comp plan changes that were before council in June for your hearings 2 weeks ago. And council voted on June 15th to enact the new code and make the comp plan changes that were presented to council at that time. We are here to present to you in a moment what's happened since June 15th, and then get started with our readings, our official readings on both the comp plan change and the zoning ordinance change for the city, which would continue into July for a second reading on July 11th, and then the third reading on July 18th. Then, as we discussed and was requested of council on June 15th, we would come back for any kind of cleanup that we need to do to the ordinance in November before the new ordinance becomes effective on December 1st. And the actions of council, again, first, the comp plan changes, which are relatively minor. There's not a lot of substance to these changes, other than the fact that, of course, changing the nomenclature that refers to the zoning districts, because we have new zoning districts now in the city, and the note that we are rezoning property in the city through the rules that we have discussed, the change in zoning in the city. All properties in the city are rezoned as a result of this action, and just reflecting that in the comprehensive plan. And then between now and the ordinance's effective date and on December 1st, the fact that as we get annexations, if we do, we would be using those same rules to apply a conversion that would occur on December 1st. So there's the comp plan amendments before council. And then second is the repeal and replacement of chapter 11 of the city code, which is the zoning ordinance. And with, of course, I'll mention again, the amendments that were first presented through an April 13th memo from myself to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So the April 13th redlined edits were available for consideration before the hearings that the Planning and Zoning Commission held in April. Then we drafted a memo to council on June 1st, which recommended a series of changes that are incorporated into this ordinance before council for first reading today. And then there's the edits that council made at your hearings 2 weeks ago, and those are now reflected in the ordinance, including the effective date of December 1st. With regard to those changes, we've got, in addition to the effective date, we've got the modification of the conditional use permit findings to replace the word or with and. You'll remember this discussion during the hearings, which is that change has been made with this ordinance that's before you. Increasing the long-term parking requirements of the city. You'll remember this discussion. We had based our parking requirements, and it was a substantial improvement over what we have, but based on a number of spaces per unit. So we actually increased that number through the hearings that we had 2 weeks ago. We added those transitional standard protections from those denser mixed use districts when they're adjacent to the R2 and R3. We had those protections through those transition standards already in the ordinance for R1. So we did extend it to the R2 and the R3. We made those edits related to the tree requirements, allowing the class 3 trees and the 8-foot planter strips along streets, and then also permitting where possible class 2 trees under power lines when there's sufficient room for class 2 trees, which are larger canopy trees than the class 1. We did include in this version before you the requirement that type 2 applications, we had notified the adjacent property owners at the time of approval for any type 2 application. We increased the neighborhood testimony time to 10 minutes. It had been, as you remember, in the ordinance that was released in February, it was at 5 minutes. So in the action of council, we increased that to 10 minutes. And that would be for all neighborhood associations that are located within the boundary of the area of notification for the type of application that is before council for public hearing, or the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the Historic District Commission, or the Design Review Commission.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
On item number 3 there, while you've got it up, I just want to let you know that I am in full support of the amount of bike parking spots that you have there. And I went back to some previous communication, and I had actually requested a certain amount based off of best practices in some certain areas months and months ago. This was incorporated into the plan. And then during the zoning hearing, I questioned it, in front of a large group of people. And it actually is a great amount. It's a very adequate amount, and it really does kind of fit best in class standards. And so I'm going to chalk it up to a really long day after multiple days, but I do think that you got that one right. And I was wrong in that conversation asking you about more.
Thank you, council member. The next one on the list is the decoupling of the sustainability and affordability requirements as it relates to those affordability incentives. So in the version of the ordinance before you today, we have made that change. We did allow the electrical substations as a conditional use in all zones, and created language which requires landscaping and screening for those substations. We next includes this next one relates to the discussion within the hearings. We heard about this at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearings as well. Concerns related to when someone gets an approved plan, when the improvements that are part of that approval are actually put in place. And so we added within the procedures of the code, which would apply to anyone, this requirement that required improvements be completed in a timely fashion, not to exceed 1 year after the occupancy or the subdivision of the property, such that we heard quite a bit about cases in which improvements have gone years and years without being installed because the language within the city requirements was not specific enough about when those improvements had to occur. So we've added that to this version of the ordinance. We are allowing all childcare, daycare facilities in the mixed use zones to be by right. Previously, they'd been as a conditional use. We've added the provision for seeking parking reductions through a conditional use permit process. We have amended the on and off-site digital sign requirements to allow for an 8-second dwell time versus the 20, which had been in the ordinance previously. And then we did, of course, make the amendments to the accessory dwelling unit standards to not require any off-street parking in association with ADUs, and remove the requirement for owner occupancy, and then also remove the requirement for, in association with that, the affordability requirement for ADUs. And then finally, we reduced the length of the deed restriction related to the affordability incentives from 50 years to 20 years. What's happened since your action on June 15th? We did update the website to include so the first thing we did was we included the list of changes that you all had made to the website so that people had access to that list that I have now gone through. We did, and I have to say that our staff and planning and our consultant Clarion worked since council's action on the 15th, beginning on the 16th, through when the ordinance was downloaded and available to the community last week, to get those amendments that I just went through quickly included within the ordinance so that council could take action today on the revised ordinance with the changes that council requested on June 15th. So it was a big effort of the consultant and Jessica Zelag's team, who's here, to get these changes made in time for this hearing tonight. Community engagement also sent an email to all the residents that participated in the public testimony aspect of the hearings 2 weeks ago. Each one of those people that you heard speak to you that week received an email with, again, that list of changes that council had directed staff to make, as well as the link to both the list on the website as well as the full ordinance that incorporates those changes. So everybody that came to the hearings and testified got a follow-up email with the information that was provided by staff prior to your first reading today. Also, neighborhood associations received the same information. So the point is, we recognize, of course, that this change to a new set of rules or an process around development is going to require a constant effort around communication and education within the community. And it's already started since June 15th, and council took its action. So we're shifting to implementation here, which, as I said, will continue to involve a lot of community engagement. We will be seeking to produce a user-friendly kind of graphic version of the code so that it's easier to navigate for people. We want to get started on that work soon. And then we're also going to be preparing a user's guide to the incentives. This is definitely in the spirit of seeking the most success that we can achieve for those affordability and sustainability incentives that are so much a part of this ordinance. So we're going to create a user's guide for people. When you come in our office, you don't have to figure it out yourself. We'll be able to give you a very readable, clear, and brief guide to using these incentives. So this is what we're kind of focused on now towards December 1st. In addition to, we had a big meeting yesterday with all the staff in planning within the planning department related to how our processes will be changing. And it's exciting because there's been a lot of work that's already gone into this, but now we're 5 months out from effective date, and that work that's already gone on, not only within the planning department, but also in the legal department and IT and so many places within the city, is now that work that's already gone on has put us in a great position to be successful, I think, on December 1st. So that is the conclusion of my update the council and happy to take any questions if you have them.
Madam, oh, yes, I think that Councilmember Willetts may have a question.
I do. Thank you, Tim. I know this was a huge lift. I was just looking at the findings memo. And I didn't see the 20-year deed restriction, but I think I have found it in the actual code. So I just want to make sure that that was there. So I'm going to continue to look, but I was tracking you all the way through, and that was the one I didn't
Okay.
remember. So I'm going to keep looking and make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, council member.
I just want to commend Tim and Jessica and staff for getting this done. I remember the last day of the zoning code hearing, and it was kind of like, well, if we take this action, are we, like, can all of this happen so that we can stay on our calendar readings before recess? And Andrea told me, yes, we can. And so here we are, and you all did a fabulous job. I know it was a huge lift. I'm shocked that the minutes were all in from all of the hearings also. And just tremendous work by everyone, really taking in all of our myriad feedback and requirements and making them so. Just really appreciate your work. And that was like the last thing of a whole lot of work before that. So way to be.
Thank you, council member.
Anything further? All good?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we approve the revised findings and draft prepared by PDS.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, a clarification point from the one I just brought up. The 20-year deed was not in the revised finding memo, but it is in the actual text of the new zoning code. So does it matter that it's not in the memo? Do we need to make an adjustment?
I can amend my motion.
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
let's amend it just
Right.
to direct that it be there.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to approve the revised findings and note that the finding for 20-year deed restrictions was not included in the original memo.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Whittings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Annie Keith,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I
Yes.
move that we approve Resolution 316-23, a resolution for a comprehensive plan text amendment to accompany the repeal and replace of Title 11 Boise City Code and providing an effective date.
You have a motion? Oh, it's unanimous consent. Sorry, now I'm reading the findings memo. Without objection.
I think
Yeah, I
it's a
think it-
motion.
Oh, it is. a
Yeah,
motion.
second.
Oh, okay.
The effective date part threw me off. Second.
Gotcha. All right. Clerk?
Nash,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Whittings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Annie Keith,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
And Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that ORD 27-23 be read by number and title only and filed for the second reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 27-23, an ordinance ZOA 23-00001, repealing and replacing Title 11 Development Code, Boise City Code, establishing and converting zoning districts and overlays in accordance with the policies set forth in the adopted comprehensive plan, establishing use regulations, development and design standards, subdivision standards, administration processes, and application procedures, provisions for enforcement and penalty, and definitions, providing for adopted specific plans, repealing all ordinances or parts thereof to the extent they conflict with passage and enaction of this ordinance, providing for severability if any part is adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, approving a summary of the ordinance, and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.